got a groovy kind of love.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Feeling Groovy with
Feeling
Cynthia and my good friend, Victoria Reynolds. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Cindy.
So I am moving. The last week I have been going through the house. We're going to have an estate sale. And so for any of you out there that are thinking about downsizing, Victoria and I were talking about this. It is difficult to let go of things sometimes, especially like, oh, this friend gave me this, and oh, this has been there every Christmas for, the last 30 years, things like that. And you need to change your attitude towards these things. So what's been happening, for instance, today I got into a closet and there were some beautiful things in there. I have these beautiful goddess statues, but they've been sitting in the closet because I really have no place to display them right now. And I displayed them in my old house, but not this house. And I thought, these are really beautiful. Someone else can be enjoying this. They don't belong in a closet. Someone else can be enjoying this. Someone else can be enjoying this. And when that attitude, instead of, oh, but my husband gave those to me as a special da-da-da-da-da. Let go of that thought and into, it's been sitting in a closet for the last 6 years. I haven't even looked at them hardly in the last 6 years unless I open the closet, right? And it's a guest room, so I hardly ever open that closet. And so changing your attitude to someone else can be enjoying this, or someone else can be using this. And then this thing itself will have a better sense of purpose because it's a beautiful statue of a goddess. Exactly. So the other thing that I've been doing, Victoria, is singing that song that most mothers have heard a gazillion times if you have a little girl. Mm-hmm. Let it go, let it go. And I've been doing that. And so the other thing I've been doing is, what do I really want to have? What do I really want to take? Mm-hmm. And I put that in a room, the things I really want to take, and everything else. The girl running the estate sale, she will find it a new home. And it's been a process, but it gets easier and easier to let go when you say this isn't serving its purpose, what it was supposed to be. Now, this is my mother. She is so sentimental over things. She actually has a spatula with a ribbon tied around it hung in her kitchen. It was the spatula that she made us pancakes and French toast. Growing up, she just couldn't throw it away, but it was so worn you can't use it anymore. It's kind of cracked in the handle, but she put a bow on it. So how many things would we want to put bows on in our house? Because it really belongs in the trash, but to her it was the thousands of pancakes that were made for us growing up.
Yeah, it's all the love that went into that thing.
I
don't think it isn't about the spatula. It's about all the years of love,
exactly,
that it reminds her of. And so that is one thing that brings her joy. And you and I have talked about that before. If it doesn't bring you joy, then why hang on to it? And I'm also being reminded a couple of things. One, the old saying, one person's junk is another person's treasure.
Yeah.
So it's what a lot of people do when they're moving is they just throw stuff away. Well, you can donate it, you can sell it. You never know, because it might be just exactly what someone else is looking for. There could be somebody out there right now saying, man, I wish I could find a goddess statue. I can't find them anywhere. And you happen to have the very thing that person's looking for.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it would just spark the light in somebody else. And they'll just be giddy over finding it.
Exactly.
And by us hoarding it, we're actually preventing them from receiving this amazing gift they've been looking for. So there's that when we think about loving it forward, right?
Loving it forward. That's a good one.
Loving it forward. So I love that this came into my life, and I'm going to love it forward to someone else. It can bring love and joy too. It makes it much easier to let things go, as you were saying. The other thing I'm being reminded of, and I know you and I've talked about this before, is I had this experience, the Christmas of 2020. My husband and I had just separated. I was pulling all the stuff out of the attic. It was just before Christmas and trying to decide what stuff he takes and what stuff I take. And so I was asking myself, what do I keep? And what myself said to me was, imagine if you were moving to a new world. What would you take with you? Because ultimately that's what we're doing, by the way. You're moving to a new world. You're packing it up and you're moving to a whole new world for you.
Right.
We collectively are moving into a new world. So what I was being shown is, if you were moving to a new world, what would you take with you? If you were getting on a ship and going to the new world, imagine, 200 years ago, you were getting on a ship and you were going to the new world. What would you take with you?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right. So I looked around in my house and I said, pretty much nothing. I would take my kids and my cats, clothes, but pretty much nothing else.
Right. Well, one thing I live in Texas.
And that's kind of the position that you're being,
right.
That you're being placed in, that we actually, as a collective of humanity, are being placed in.
Exactly.
What will we take with us? And when you start saying it from that perspective, it's like, wow, I really don't need all this stuff.
Exactly. Well, I'm moving from Texas to Florida, and I started my life at the beach, the Pacific, and now I'll retire at the Atlantic or the Gulf. We're moving to the Sarasota area. And so what I'm doing now is the cowboy boots are going, right? Those kind of things. So the Texas stuff is going to serve somebody else in Texas. And even when I'm going through my outfits or clothes, it's like, that's not beach, that's not beach, that's not beach. Right. So
I'm even looking at the little thing behind you.
Uh-huh.
With the Lone Star behind you.
Oh yeah. Actually, my daughter did that. Isn't that cool? It's really not a Lone Star. In fact, the painting is, when she painted it, is supposed to be horizontal. But I saw this road, and I liked it better, like a road to
the light.
To the light, exactly. And so,
that'll go with you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, of course, because she painted it. It's my daughter painted it.
Exactly.
It has more value than stuff we paid a lot of money for, right? Yep. So the other artwork that we have, but that's going. So I'm finding that art, anything to do with art, is going. Because I love the creativity. Then after I get there, maybe I'll let it go there. But right now, because I love creativity, art's going, the musical instruments are going. And then as far as everything else, one kitchen table and chairs, one bedroom suite, one couch love seat recliner. That's pretty much it. 2 refrigerators. That's all that's going to Florida. Isn't that great? And my piano, of course. But
all of your musical stuff, obviously.
All the musical stuff is going, and all the artwork is going that somebody painted, not photos, artwork, but paint, creativity. That's it. That's
wow.
And it's
so you're seriously downsizing.
Oh, absolutely. So I have a beautiful cherry wood 4-poster bed, for instance. that was my husband. This is my husband and I, our first bedroom set. And we've been married 30, oh gosh, eek, 30, 35 years. All right. And so this beautiful cherry wood 4-poster bed, I've been thanking it every day. That's what I do. I've been saying, thank you for serving us. And now you're going to be a beautiful piece of furniture in someone else's house. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I personalize inanimate objects like my mother's spatula.
But what's really beautiful about that is that everything that we touch is energy.
It is.
That's what we're talking in the beginning. Everything is energy.
Right.
And the basis, everything is actually made of love. This is one thing a lot of people don't understand. That God is love and all that is love. Everything is actually made of love. Compassion is what everything is made of. And so that's why when you see the plants are experiencing the suffering of the other plants, because there's compassion at the core of all of us. And the bed is made of wood, and it feels too in its own way. Certainly not the range of emotion, of energy and motion that human beings feel. And yet there is still energy and motion in all things. So you're loving the bed and letting it know it's going to a beautiful new home, and someone else is going to love it for another 30 years.
Right.
That's helping. One, it's helping you let things go, but it's also allowing these supposedly inanimate objects to feel the love and letting go and going someplace else as well. It's a really beautiful process that you're doing.
It really is. And have you ever thought, for instance, when you go to Europe and you see these like doors and things, furniture, things that are like hundreds and hundreds of years old. My daughter bought a big door from the 1400s. She lived in Europe for a long time, and she has a house there, and she bought this door. It's just a door that she uses. It's huge. It's this big door, but it's from the 1400s. It doesn't open anything. It's just this wooden door. The tree that it was made from would not live 1400 years. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So think about that. So everything in your home, for instance, that's wooden was a tree at one time. And it's our energy that keeps that tree alive. I think about that sometimes. I think there's a tree, there's a tree, there's a tree, there's a tree. These are all made of trees that the tree itself would not live this long. I mean, if we see a tree that's 14 or 400 or 500 years old, that's something in itself. And they say, and I've even seen it, we've all seen it, houses, brand new homes, if no one's occupying that house, it will start running down before an old house built in the 1700s will wear down, because of our energy, and our energy feeds that other energy and keeps it alive. That's kind of a deep thought.
It is really interesting. You're right. It does not take very long for a house to start breaking down if nobody's in it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and another thing, I was just talking, we're fixing up the garden outside and all of that. And the fellow who's working on the yard, he works on another yard, and he says, I work on a house that the garage is underneath, and the man loves Corvettes. He's got like 6 Corvettes in that garage. And at the next level of the house, it's just this humongous playroom with, pool tables and pinball machines and maybe ping pong tables, things like that. And then the house itself is on the 3rd level, and it's humongous, he said. And he said that he was talking to the man who owns the house. And he said, my kids are all gone. And none of this means anything anymore. That's kind of what's happening with us as well. The children are all in, or our children, they're grown-ups, but they're all in Florida and I have 4 new little grandbabies there. So I want to be there with them, because ultimately it all comes down to family. That's what is the most important thing that I think when it comes to humans, is that family unit. And family, I mean, we can go on and on and on and on about families. But if you have a good one, if you have a good solid family, and you focus on love and giving and forgiving, so that's what we're walking into in Florida, which is very exciting, and that makes it easier to let everything else go. So we're going from dusty West Texas town with bright blue sky, and it really is nice here in San Angelo. We live close to a river, and last night there was a bunch of us we had our guitars and we made a circle and we were watching the sunset down at the river, and that was beautiful. And now I'm going into a tropical environment, palm trees, and the skies in Florida are just spectacular. The cloud formations that happen in Florida. So it's a completely different experience. It'll be another beach experience for me. But one thing that I've learned, Victoria, when it comes to moving, because this will be, let's see, I moved from Redondo to East Texas to Nashville to West Texas and now Florida. Every place I've ever moved to, God had something in mind for me to do. And I didn't realize that as much until I moved back to West Texas. That every place that I've been to, like Redondo, I started my career with Jose Cuervo. I wrote Jose Cuervo. And then I moved to East Texas and I started doing writing songs for children. I did a Christian ministry there. Then when I moved to Nashville, I got a record deal doing classical original piano. Some people call it new age. I like ambient piano, easy listening music. And then moved to West Texas, where I started writing musicals. And all of my music has a purpose in mind. And so I don't know what's going to happen in Florida, but I'm very excited because, like you were talking before about being expansive, it'll show up right away. Because when we move or when we have big changes in our life, sometimes they're forced, sometimes they're something we choose. It's important to really understand God, understand our authentic self, understand our sense of purpose, because then you just, okay, God, what do you want me to do with what I know how to do? What do you have in mind for me here? And I'm walking into Florida with that attitude. How can I serve? And what do you want me to do here? And then just pay attention, because when you have that attitude, then it starts coming to you. You don't have to look for it. It comes to you. Your job is just to be aware when something shows up, that it has a purpose in your purpose.
So I always say synchronicity is the magic of the universe, right? So God, the universe, source, whatever your label is for the infinite, places these opportunities into our path. It's our job to recognize them, and it's our job to do something with them.
Right.
So I hear people complain, well, nothing ever happens. And like, all the time, something is always coming in your path. You're just not seeing it. It's up to us to see it, and it's up to us to do something with it. Exactly. God's not going to do the work for us.
Exactly.
That's one thing that cracks me up. But people are like, well, God didn't do me any favors. I'm like, It's not God's job to do it.
No.
Like God's the gods, your angels, your guides, your ancestors, whatever, stackers, some people call them stackers, putting the opportunities in your path. They're not going to do the action for us.
Right.
We actually have to act upon what's put in our path. We got to recognize it, and then we got to act upon it. Can't blame anybody else for not taking our action.
Exactly. And we are that essence of God.
Exactly. And we are the essence of God anyway. So so in a sense, God is acting through us, right? That's why I keep saying that we are the divine intervention we seek. God is acting through every single one of us.
Well, we have
but if you think of God as a man in the sky, God's not coming down and picking up your arm and taking the pen and making you write the thing down.
God isn't a human, everybody. You said that before. Say it again. God, how did you say that before? God is created in the image of,
man created God in the image of man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God doesn't make decisions. God doesn't choose whether you win or lose in a ball game. God doesn't do all that.
Pick sides. God doesn't pick sides.
God is, what's so beautiful about creation and our world and our universe is the sun, for instance, is they worship the sun because they knew it brought warmth. They knew that it nurtured the crops. And so back in the old days, sun was a god. But you know what? That's not so far off when you think of what God is, that bright, shining light that is just unconditional. You can go out in that sun and maybe get a sunburn, or you can go out in that sun and get warm, right? But the sun doesn't say, I think I'm going to make you get a sunburn today. Or the sun doesn't say, you need to be warm. Okay, you'll be warm because I'm the sun. You know, that's it. That's not too far off of understanding God. God is energy, and love is the light energy. So that's really not too far as a metaphor for God. And then for us to understand, but quit saying that God doesn't want me to do this, or God said this, or God, God's more like the sun in that way of is love, beautiful, beautiful love. So that's why some people like to call God source energy, the creator, that part that's in all the empty space. And so if you look around right now, anybody's watching, look around your room. There's more God in the room than anything else because you've got more empty space than anything else. Mm-hmm. And then if you blow everything up, guess what? There's all that empty space. So each one of us is an expression, an idea, getting back to that tree. We feed it energy. That tree has been transformed into a beautiful bedroom set. But if it was a tree, it might, 100 years, 200 years from now, 400 years from now, this bedroom set, if it's given energy, will still exist. But the tree wouldn't have. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
because of the energy we give it.
Right.
Of bringing it. So in closing, Victoria, what would you say to people that are, especially people who hoard? We know that that's actually a mental condition when people hoard. Yeah. How to, I like your example of going to another planet, or like in the old days, thinking of the people that just had suitcases. That's all they had. Suitcase and a dream. Ask yourself.
And even the wealthiest people didn't take much with them.
Right.
They might have taken a couple of the big trunks full of clothing and maybe a couple of pieces of furniture.
Right.
But even the wealthiest people didn't take a lot with them.
No, exactly.
What they took with them was a few things they needed and a dream of a new life in another world.
And that's what I'm bringing, is my dream, a new dream. But row, row, row your boat. Life is but a dream. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we love you. Spend the rest of your day feeling groovy. Thank you.